big question Monday night is, did Trump win by more than 20 points? No one in the history of the caucuses has ever had 50%. No one. I believe that based on everything that I've seen, Trump is going to win by plus 20.
Dang. Sean Spicer, and that's why we have him right here on The First. Joining me now, host of the wonderful Sean Spicer Show, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday through Friday right here on The First. Sean, my show's called I'm Right, but I'm thinking maybe you should steal that one. I'll just rebrand mine as something else, man.
I'm relieved. I think it might be, I'm relieved with Sean Spicer because I didn't, when I saw that play back, I was like, man, that was pretty bold. But he exceeded that expectation, Jesse. I mean, you think about it, the goal was to beat 41% and 12.8%, and he crushed it. And there's no question about it. Even CNN had to admit that he had a good night.
Sean, okay, can you explain from a 30,000-foot view level? Look, half the GOP primary voting base is despondent today. The other half are doing backflips. Talk to the despondent ones. Why is the GOP base so heavily in Trump's corner? I know you're not working for the campaign. Just give them the honest assessment. Why?
I think the easy answer, Jesse, is that in politics, we get promised a lot of things from folks when they run for election and then re-election. In Trump's case, he literally can point to a record of success, both domestically and internationally, and say, judge me by what I got done. And largely, domestically, you talk about a southern border that was secure. We were energy independent as a country. We had the lowest unemployment across all different sectors. The list goes on and on domestically. Then we look at internationally. It was the first time in several administrations that Vladimir Putin hadn't invaded or annexed any land. Israel was at peace. North Korea wasn't going nuts. Iran wasn't firing missiles at our ships and other commercial entities in the Mediterranean. China wasn't openly talking about taking over Taiwan, and there wasn't a skirmish in Eastern Europe that I mentioned that was bleeding us financially. So I think that's, when I talk to people, they just tell me, look, I might not like everything about him, but he got things done. He did what he said he was going to do, and there's a record of result.
Can you explain, if people vote on, to push back on that though, if people vote on records and results, why is Ron DeSantis at 14%? I mean, clearly they're voting on more than that. If you're only voting on records and results, Ron DeSantis has records too. Trump has a great record. DeSantis has a great record. It's clearly they're voting on something else.
Well, I think in the case of DeSantis, I actually think he's been a great governor. He has done a lot. He has accomplished a lot. He has kept his word. Yeah. But when it comes to the country, and I think that a lot of people would have supported Ron DeSantis as the next guy. But at the end of the day, you don't change horses with a guy that's saying, I want to be that guy, if that guy's still around. You don't take the understudy when the main character's still there. It was quoted to me, and so this isn't mine, but you don't go see the cover band when the actual band is still playing. So right now, I think people feel like Trump knows the system. He knows what he's doing. He fights back. I think Ron DeSantis, had he waited, maybe, and I get politics doesn't work like this, but at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of people who would have said you would have been the perfect person to take on the mantle of America First if you had waited your turn. I get why he didn't do that. I'm not suggesting that he did, but I think for a lot of people, they felt like he would have been perfect based on his record in Florida. Now, remember, just so people understand, I think Ron DeSantis looked at that and said, you got to go when you got to go. I'll be 2 years out of being governor when Trump leaves office, and who knows what the world will look like. So I get why he did what he did. That being said, as I said, I think a lot of voters are saying, yes, I like the record in Florida, but when it comes to running the country and in doing big things, energy independence, securing the border, lowering taxes, Trump actually did it as president.
Sean, can you explain why? Okay, so Vivek dropped out right away. Nobody's surprised about any of that. He was always kind of like a Trump stalking horse anyway. But Nikki Haley didn't. Ron DeSantis didn't. Now, anybody looking at this race objectively knows that this thing is over. It is over with a capital O. I know that's hard for a lot of people to hear, but it is. Nikki Haley knows that too. Ron DeSantis knows that too. Why are they still in? What's the angle? Explain it for people who aren't political animals.
Well, I think there's two reasons. Well, three. One, in their hearts of hearts, you don't run for class president, never mind president of the United States, if you don't think that you can win and that you don't believe in yourself. So ultimately, they do believe in themselves and they do believe that they are the best person to do this. Right or wrong, that's just, you don't put this much time and effort into a venture, be away from your family, et cetera, if you don't think that you can do it. So that's number one. Number two, I believe that ultimately they think that there's going to be something that happens. Something's going to happen to Trump. Now, if you look at the legal cases, nothing is going to get decided in the next 20 days, next 30 days, next 60 days. And, the process is such. I was literally sitting here doing math on a calendar. There's 15 states and one territory coming up on March 5th. That's Super Tuesday, 874 delegates. You need 1,215 to win. Nothing's going to happen before then. But to get to your point, what do they think? They think something's going to happen, and they'll be the ones standing there ready to assume the mantle if Trump were to falter or fall. Again, I don't see it happening, but that's kind of going through their mind. And then the third thing is that there's a lot of donors that are giving them money and saying, we'll keep funding you if you go. And the people that you surround yourself in politics are consultants, and the consultants only make money if you stay in the race. And so some of them are, sitting back saying, God, you get out of this race, I can stop. I don't get a cut anymore of everything that we spend on you. So I'm going to encourage you to stay in the race. And that's basically why.
Okay, it's easy to understand a politician's angle, hoping Trump falls in some way, or at least assuming if he does, you'll be there. It's easy to understand a consultant's angle. I'm a capitalist after all. Everyone has bills to pay. But you mentioned the donors. If you're a donor, you're Johnny Moneybags today, why are you still shoveling money at Nikki Haley? Honestly, and I like the guy. I still plan on voting for him in the primary if he's there. But why are you shoveling money at Ron DeSantis? Isn't that throwing money away?
Yeah, it is. I think so. And it's not just the donors, right? It's also the activists, the people that you're asking to make phone calls for you, to put signs out. I mean, those are all those people in Iowa last night that were driving people to the polls in their four-wheel drive vehicles. And those are all volunteers. And they have to believe in you. And they have to believe that there's a path to the nomination. And I think it's not just donors. But for some of these people, it's a passion project. Either they really hate Trump or they really believe in DeSantis or Haley. And also, the one thing that I have found is, to your point about being a capitalist, like, I am a New England frugal guy. Like, if I can find something that's going to give me a coupon and I can save $5 and go do it. But when you're a billionaire and saying, hey, I'll throw a couple extra million at this campaign that I really like, that's sort of like the tip when I go out to dinner. They don't really look at that as some huge amount of money. The people that are funding these people have serious cash.